Well, good morning, everybody. This is John Cagle with Selltis, and today I want to talk just a little bit about presenting data for our users or helping our users to enter data in a way that might be a little more convenient or even a little bit more intuitive. You know, often in these sessions we have system administrator types, and we think a lot about reporting and those types of things, but sometimes we need to focus on the user and make sure that they have what they need in order to get data into Selltis so they can be more productive for themselves and for the company as a whole, of course. So I have a couple of notes here of things I wanted to show you. My idea, as usual, is to have this so that your thoughts are stimulated about how Selltis can be more productive for you. So the key takeaway today then is making data input either easier or more efficient or more intuitive. So I want to talk about a few things this morning, manipulating forms, maybe even default desktops, some form shortcuts, alerts, those types of things to again, make data a little easier to get at or to understand. So a couple of ideas just to start. I'm showing you a screenshot of my demo database this morning. And one of the things you can do as they begin to log into Selltis is to give them a message about what's new or some things that you would like to emphasize as a company or as your use for Selltis might be concerned. So for example, if we were to go to my default database here, and we'll log in real quick. Again, just a sample message here that's controlled via your workgroup options. You can see that you can put stuff in front of a user. I just have a simple text thing here, but it can be actually pretty complex. We have a couple of customers who have some pretty fancy web pages that they show here before they continue on into Selltis. So just a little tip of something I thought might be kind of neat to share with you this morning. Next, we want to remember, and we've covered this in some recent sessions, where users can set up their own login desktop and, of course, set up their own personal nodes. So this is in Tools, Personal Options, and any user can set up their own nodes, their own desktop nodes, and go ahead and put their own desktops into those nodes. So just real briefly back into my demo database, the user can go to Tools, Personal Options, and set up a node that looks something like this, for example. So I had put some, I think, demo desktops into this node right here, and you can see that the user can go in and insert a new node. JK again, apply, hit save, and then if we were to either log out and log back in or refresh the desktop panel, we can see that any user can add their own nodes and then can set up their own desktops to go in it. Remember also that the user can go to Personal Options and Display, and of course set either the Selltis sales program, initial desktop, or for Selltis mobile, set their initial desktop to display here. So we covered that in other sessions, and I think it's if you don't get that out of the help documentation, just let us know and we'll help you with that. So again, just some ideas on how we can have the user quickly get to a place where they can either look up data or enter data. The next thing I'd like to just touch on and remind you about as either a user or an administrator is something that we kind of gloss over sometimes in a training or initial training, and we probably shouldn't. There's a couple of things going on with the history panel here that might help users too. Sometimes I think that users are so used to just going to the desktop panel and restarting a particular desktop that they forget that the history panel kind of leaves that breadcrumb trail of where they've been during the session. So again, back out to my demo database here. If I open a particular form, Of course, that's in the history panel. And if I go somewhere else and open another desktop, like my calendar, of course, that's in the history panel. But the forms, if you're working, say, on a complex quote or detailing out a project, those things stay in the history panel as long as your session is open. And then, of course, these arrow keys at the top are taking us back down the trail of where we've been, forward and backward. And in fact, you see the little highlight here moving as I move the arrow. So for users, you might want to remind them that that's available to them. In addition, these panels, these 3 panels, are saved from session to session. So if I were to click on that little blue closure button, if you will, or move it, the way I leave this will be as I leave this, it will be shown the next time I log in. It's a little different than the desktop area, where if I were to move this kind of thing here, let me get my mouse to work. If I were to move this divider here, it will revert back to the default of how I set the desktop up from session to session. But these do stay. So if the user is just working from one desktop all day long, they don't even have to see those panels over there on the left. Of course, we might want them to see especially alerts, but again, just different ideas to help users quickly get to entering data. All right, let's get into a little bit more detail. When we're working with forms, I want each of you to know that, especially if you're a system administrator, that the form editor is available to you. Just a matter of someone like myself or someone in support, Deborah, turning on your permission to edit forms. And I believe there is a help document for editing forms. It's relatively simple. You may want to get one of us involved just to make sure that you're not interrupting a process, for example. But to move a field around or even to add tabs is not that difficult. So when we're working with a form, know that we're generally talking about the main area, which is above the tabs. And on the form, when we display data or fields or links in the main tab, that usually applies to every user in every situation. However, we may have, for example, different divisions of users who are using different sets of data. So if, in this case, the system guy is in division 1, we may take him, because of that connection, to a different tab to display. Or if this particular user is talking about a particular link, such as a process or a particular product, we may have different things that we wanted to display on a tab versus the main area. So one example I can give you is, and I'll show you the actual database in just a second, we have one of our customers who is driving what tab actually shows. And so we're saying that we're hiding tabs based on a particular value in another field, or showing a tab based on that value. And when we choose that value, then that tab is active or in front of us. So again, this could be based on, say, a particular user's location. We only want to show fields on a tab based on that user, based on the stage of an opportunity or a quote, based on a type of project. I'll show you what that looks like in one of our customer databases here. I'm not displaying any of their data, just this particular form. And on this project, this particular customer has a link box here that's talking about different processes that they would work on. So here in this case, if I were to change the process from autoclave to chemical, now we're talking about a different sales process, you would see that the autoclave tab goes away. This is in development, by the way, and my chemical tab should come up. So I'm hiding or putting data in front of the user based on that process, and I haven't developed the other tabs yet. So a bit of the demo should be hopefully somewhat explanatory for you there. So again, we can derive data based on various other values on the form. And by the way, I'm logged in as a system person, but if you had permission to edit forms, you would simply go to the author menu and manage forms. And we won't get into this today, but you can see that I can add fields relatively easily to a particular place. I can actually move tabs around, and again, you might want to get with support before you start moving things too much, but just to make sure that there's no processes behind the scenes. But I mean, you could certainly add a field and see what that looks like, save it or not, and move on. So the form editor, we can get into that in another session or individually, but it is available to you to put the fields in front of your users that you want them to work with. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about shortcuts and the Create Linked menu. And the reason for this, again, is to help our users quickly to enter data. I think most of you would probably know that the Create Linked menu values can have manipulation behind them to autofill various things on the ensuing form. So for example, when we create a linked sales visit as a value in the Create Linked menu, we create an activity log where the type is filled out for us. And other things certainly happen. When you create a linked lead, it's an activity log where the purpose lead is filled. And then source becomes mandatory. Or other things might become mandatory. Related product. What product did we talk about in the sales visit, for example? So we have various degrees of complexity for our different customers in using this Create Linked menu. The idea would be not to have 40 different Create Linked menu items, but to use this, say, judiciously to make forms available to the user where they don't have to fill too many things out. In addition, you can use icons to kind of do the same thing or to have the same idea. So for example, in the default database, we create a new opportunity for each product for each sales situation. And then so users say, well, I need to create 3 opportunities concurrently. Well, they could do that with, say, a save and create another icon where you copy the entire opportunity 1 to opportunity 2 and from 2 to 3, etc., with the exception of, say, the product field or the quantity field or whatever the case may be. So with both of these, we can fill out an ensuing form or the form that comes after by using some shortcuts. And of course, you're all familiar with, say, the on-save create to do or on-save create activity kind of situation. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Good. All right. A couple of other things that I thought might be interesting or germane to this conversation were about searches, alerts, info buttons, and maybe some even hyperlinks to show additional data right from a Selltis form, because we want users to know exactly what they're supposed to do in order to get the reporting they need for themselves. So the first of these is the search. And I'm pointing out kind of a thing that we do here and there for customers that I think is really helpful. I think most of you are familiar with the kind of universal search button here on the top right of your work area. So if you have a company view that's in focus, when you hit the search button, you're taken to the company tab. If you have a contact view in focus in Selltis, you're taken to the contact tab. And then you simply start to fill out some of the search parameters. First name contains, last name contains, and company contains, etc. One of the things that happens, though, is you get kind of a generic list of contacts. So if I were to come into my demo database, I think that's where I did it, and hit the search button here, again, I was on a project form or in a project view, so I went right to that tab, right? But let's take a look and search for a company contains ABC. And if we were to hit search, we would get this company search results of ABC and Babcock and maybe ABC Chemical or whatever the case may be. But let me go over to the demo database here, which is where I should have been in the first case, and hit search. And if I go to contact here, and if I were to type for ABC and hit search, look what I did. Instead of having that generic, just single view desktop, I took that search results desktop for contacts, and you could do the same thing for projects and companies too, and actually made it a mini views desktop. The reason I did that is, especially with some of our newer customers where they have a lot of duplicate data or not very good data, they're looking for values in a search type methodology. But they want to be able to go ahead and create that linked opportunity, right away. So if we use the search results and then mini views, then they can go ahead and start taking action without going, oh yeah, it's John Applegate. Now I have to go back over here and click here, and then click here, and then click here, and finally get to John Applegate. Now that I've found it, I can simply start working from that search results desktop and continue on with my day. So I can show you how to set that up separately, but it's pretty simple. There is one little gotcha there in the background in that master view is scripted, but just a little tip to help you with your users, again, entering data quickly and not have to flounder around and look in 3 different places to actually find where to start the create linked process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Very good. All right, so here I'm just showing a screenshot of how that desktop came across. And so let's move on to alerts. Generally, there are 2 types of alerts. One is an overnight alert, which you're usually used to. So we fire an alert when we have an opportunity that I'm involved with where the next action date has been reached and the status is open, right? You guys are used to either an overdue op or an overdue project or an overdue quote, I think. In addition, there are the instant alerts, and there's really just a few, mainly about to-dos and and how they're assigned to you. So I just want to make sure that you guys know that it's really simple for our professional support team to make more instant alerts or edit the current ones, or to, for example, edit the kind of the standard overnight ones like the overdue ops. So for example, in the database as it's rolled out for new customers, when I assign a new lead, there is not an instant alert. There's an overdue leads, which is an overnight alert, but there's not an instant alert for that new lead. And I just want to let you know that it's a frequent and simple change for us to put that in front of users, especially if you're manually entering leads 1 or 2 at a time and then assigning them to users, as an example. So again, just another way to put data in front of people so that they can use it quickly and continue on with their day without worrying about where to click. In more than a few cases, we use info buttons in Selltis. Here I'm showing a screenshot of one of our customers' opportunity forms. And they have taken the probability, and this is becoming more and more common. They're talking about a go-get probability or a pre-quote, post-quote probability. So they're combining several different probabilities to get a better handle on forecasting. But it may not be intuitive for every user. So what they do, or what we do with the customer, is put an info button on. And there's a couple of different options, but the info button, when the user clicks on it, can either pop up a message that looks like this, that gives them some information. And this can be edited here. I'm not sure if this is a demo one or not, but this can be edited to be, short or long message about what you're supposed to do when you reach that field in Selltis. I have another one here where the company form has several information buttons on it. They're a multilingual company. In other words, they have users in many different countries. And so they wanted to make the English company form be intuitive for everyone. And when they click on the info button here, they actually go to a different tab in Selltis, and that tab displays the text that they want to portray to the user about what they should use when they're filling out that field. And so that looks like this. You can see that the user has clicked on an info button, and then we're showing an info tab where there's text in a memo field here, a text field describing what we want the user to do. All right, the last thing I have this morning is putting a hyperlink into a particular form or onto a particular form, whether it be on the main area or whether it be on the tab of a form. And in this case, I'm working with, I don't think Sarah Davis with MoGas is with us this morning, but here we began to experiment with popping up actually a flow chart based on where the user is in the sales process on the project. So let's go in there and take a look at what that particular form looks like. So here's our project in Selltis, and I have a hyperlink on the top of these tabs. I mentioned earlier that I have a different tab for autoclave, for engineering, for other types of processes for the project. And this link right here, where it says display process chart, actually takes us to either an autoclave or an engineering process chart, depending on which project process is chosen here. So if I click on this link, I'm actually popping up. I'm working in Chrome here, but it doesn't make any difference what the browser is. I'm popping up a PDF where the user can, if I can get at it here with my cursor, where the user can go in and really get some info on how they want to proceed with the project above and beyond kind of the check boxes in Selltis. So just another way to display data and make it easier for the user to think about how they're interacting with the customer, against their competition, with their vendors, etc. So I thought that was a neat idea that you guys might want to think about, and it may be appropriate for you in your processes with Selltis. All right, well that's what I had for this morning, just a few tips about helping users enter data, and I'd like to know if you guys have any questions on that, or if I can provide any other commentary on this subject at least.
Hey John?
Yeah?
A quick question on the, you had said at the very beginning that little pop-up window when you log in. Where do you set that up at?
It needs to be enabled by professional services, but it's only just a few minutes for Tina usually to do that for us. And what we did with mine is just put this a link from this to a memo field in workgroup options. What we did is put it here somewhere in the workgroup options. I forget where she put it, but there would be a field to manipulate, kind of like this memo field here, where you could type out what you wanted and that would show up in that place. Then we throw your logo in there, unless you want to do something even fancier.
And that would then apply to anyone in our group that logged in, that would pop up for them?
Yeah, it would pop up each time they logged in.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so there are fancier ones. Deborah, I think we took the one for Stork down, but we had one that was really fancy for one of our customers that actually gave them several options of how to enter into the database.
Okay.
We'll keep it simple, and again, you'll just be able to manipulate that text, and we can choose a font and all that to make it look a little prettier than my standard Times New Roman, of course. Good
Okay. Thank
question.
you.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, guys. I appreciate your time. It was a good session, I thought, and I appreciate your questions, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank
You guys have a great weekend.